Hey, we have a game we're working on, and as I mentioned previously, um, we're at a very good place where you can play the game. I mean, that's good. That's a good thing. But also, it is functionality complete, and I want to be extremely clear about what that means. It means you can play it. Yeah, the functions work. The rules are facilitated by the computer. Yay. Okay, so you can play it. However, if you understand that that's all that's going on right now, then it would make sense that it doesn't look like much else. It doesn't look like much else. Well, what I mean is, if you go to Discord and find the download for this game, which you can, there is a early version available to download and play and try. You would see a single zip file you can download. It will save a file to your computer um, in something called app data. It is a hidden folder. In case you don't understand Windows, don't worry about it. Pretty much every application that has to save some data puts it there. Shuffle Wars would be under a folder called Games in a Jungle. And by the way, our Perl creator was also saving data in that folder, or could save data in that folder. Although I don't think this Perl creator saves any data at all. um, and the only data, by the way, that Shuffle Wars saves is the player data. And you could make all of this up. So it does like ask you for a name and a password and an email, recovery email. Hey, spoiler alert, we don't actually do anything with that. So you can totally put anything with an at symbol and a dot and it would work. We don't save that except to just be organized and have that part of your profile. That data is condensed into a binary file and it's deep in your computer. That's the only file that's saved. It's actually really small. But getting back to my point about how this looks, if you play this game, it looks like this, and it sounds like this, but it doesn't look like much. It certainly doesn't look like you're going into a finished game, and it's not. That's the point. It also doesn't sound all that great when you consider, there could be more sounds going on. It's true that we do have some sounds, but again, it's for the functionality of it to work. You can play the game. We can do a quick play. You can make a profile. You can go through a campaign. You can collect pearls. Yes, true, true, true. And credits. Yes. But it doesn't look like an art style that was designed yet, and it hasn't been. The sounds are functional. We can functionally play sounds, but the choice of sounds and the sound design, no, it hasn't happened yet. Well, we're going to get there. And in fact, what my goal was to get to a place where we could concentrate on art and then audio. So I was happy that we got to a functionality complete. And then I got to this stage where I realized if you do play, you're encountering this very, very bare bones, functionally complete, yet totally cryptic game experience. Like, this is a game? What is this? Do round. What does that even mean? Well, to understand what this game is, there's some explanation. Like, what is this marching orders stuff? What's going on here? What am I doing with these? Like, what's going on? To really explain what the game is so that people could play it, there is a functional piece that is missing. and that is, let's tell the player what is going on. Some amount of tutorial, some amount of explanation and instructions is necessary. Otherwise, actually, this is a brick, right? It's not functional yet, despite the fact that these processes work. The game rules actually work. That's great. But if you don't know about it and you're sitting here trying to play it, it doesn't do anything for you, right? By the way, I've noticed this animation bug where frames are being held, and I'm not exactly sure why that would be. I noticed this just recently. This is the build, by the way. Things in the build will act differently. That's for sure. So what was necessary is this tutorial. And you may have noticed while I was talking a moment ago, this was pulsing. The label tutorial was pulsing up and down to really highlight it for a new player. And now that I've played a game, this isn't highlighted anymore. Now that 2 minutes have gone by, this is not highlighting anymore. But if a new player logs in, this will pulse again to really highlight that you should click this. And if they do, here's a small tutorial. Now, to make it functionally complete again, I just threw in some images. And I have to be honest, I've since then had to go in and edit these because I realized they were actually misleading in some places. But the functional part was, let's show a slideshow. There needs to be images that can be displayed in a series, and they need to be able to navigate through the slides. So there's buttons that go back and forth. So here's the functional part of it. And now I have a way of at least explaining what the heck is going on. In some way, players aren't totally lost. There's at least some modest amount of instruction. To clue you in on what the stats are, this was absolutely necessary. To clue you in on winning 2 of 3 rounds, well, that was absolutely necessary. I do a summary of how all these stats actually work in battle, but this might actually be going a little too far into detail. There's more detail I left out, but the point is, with this amount of instruction, a player could be like, okay, at least I'm not being thrown in to an unknown place. There is some reference that tells me what's going on. This at least tells you now, like, oh, okay, I can tell my cards which enemy cards to attack. That's what this is for. Okay. So this was an extra piece of functionality. And the way I found that was role-playing. By role-playing as the player who has never seen this game before and saying, okay, Shuffle Wars. Okay, there are 2 buttons here, begin and quit. Okay, I'm not going to quit, but I might begin. Oh, I can sign up, or I can sign in, or I can be a guest. What does guest mean? Oh, my data won't be saved. Well, maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I do want to do that. Okay. By role-playing as the player, I got to this stage where I'm like, oh, wait a minute, what the heck is going on here? I don't know. As the player, I am ignorant about what is happening in this game, you see. As the designer, I totally know what's going on. I've been working on this for months. But as a player, I would be lost. And that's the point. That's where I got, oh, I need to have this. And there was a space for a button, so we made a button. No big deal. Done. By the same token, role-playing as a player and getting to the stage where, okay, I guess I know I need to like pick cards. So here's some cards and I can do this. So I guess I can do something with this. I can, oh, here they go. They can go on the table. So I will put them on the table. Oh, I can't put them in the same place. I see. I'm setting, okay, all right. Right. There's already some functionality I've put into this to sort of corral the player into doing what the rules need you to do. But, like, you can't go forward until all 3 cards are laid down, things like that. But as I'm going through and just performing what I think a player who's never seen this game might do, I realize, hey, there's a stage here that is actually more than confusing. This button still bugs the crap out of me because it seems to be unnecessary, and yet I've found utility in it as I play to like stop and figure out if I want to drop a pearl or something. But this will feel really strange to a player who's like, why do I have to keep pressing this button to move on? Can't it just play, right? And then it gets to this stage where all the cards are turned over and it just goes. This is a little more satisfying. But as I continue to play through these games, let's get through this round. Let's try to win 2 rounds. Yeah, this bug with the animation is concerning me, actually. I haven't noticed it until I built the game. This is a tool, very specific tool that I made, so I should be able to fix it. Okay, I won 1 round. Let's win another. And if I can, we'll get to the part that I'm talking about. So I'm here. I evidently know that I am in battle. I'm picking cards and I can set my formation, and I have to keep pressing this button to move forward. There's nothing else to do. So doing battle makes sense, especially if I understand that's what this game is, as a battle card game. I mean, even like the object of the game and the whole like premise of the game wasn't clear until I made the tutorial, but at least I have a beginning image on the tutorial to explain this is a battle card game. You know, you are sending cards into battle. All right. We have to go for a 3rd round. So a lot of this is automatic. There is nothing the player can do except pick more cards and keep going, because there's no other buttons to press that'll get them out of this except for escape. They could press escape at any time. So we're here in the 3rd round. We're realizing we could win. We might lose. We might not know the intricate details about what this is and how it works. We might not know the intricate details of how cards attack in their lane or a neighboring lane, and that they collapse if the lanes are empty, things like that. We'll discover those as we play. That's fine. That emergent gameplay is totally cool. But the basics of just getting through a match or two, you know, if you can't do that, then you'll never see any of that emergent gameplay. So it's critical to at least get the player to go through an entire game loop, which we are doing now. We have gone through 2 rounds. We're finishing a 3rd round to finish the match, and we're hoping that the loop sends our player back to the main menu. And it was at this point I realized, oh, wait a minute. I put a single button here again, but it's literally to reset the match. I know that I could press escape at any time and go to the main menu, but a player who's never seen this game before doesn't. So I realized, oh, I need to have some sort of indicator. Hey, player, hit escape to go to the menu. And it shows up now. You can also reset the match, but it does show up now, and you can come back here. So we do have extras in here to help the player, a first-time player, understand what is happening. Believe me, there's more that could be done, but this is the very bare minimum user experience interface that would be necessary to help a first-time player get through the game loop, because presumably at this point they could say, you know what, maybe I do want to make a new account. At that point, things like the profile, campaign, and pearls become available, and they can explore those things. They know that they aren't available now, but if they get a profile, they will. After trying a campaign and getting through a couple of things, they could get a pearl. Well, for example, if they do a campaign and they've just started, I had it so, first of all, there were some extra buttons so you could like regenerate the campaign. Yeah, no, that was for my testing. I don't want that for the player who's trying to figure out what's going on. I don't want to confuse the player with extra buttons, right? They can go back or they can go to the campaign. And when they do, there we go. My audio is not working. So, the other thing that was happening was it was possible, even for a first-time player, to come into a campaign that was long and complicated with like 4 stages and multiple layers and paths and stuff. Well, no. I want the first-time players, the early players, to have a very simple campaign and to only progress to more complex campaigns with longer stages, maybe 3, maybe 4, and more paths to go through in the campaign if they've played a lot of matches. So now this campaign generation actually takes into account how experienced you are as a player. This profile is checked, how many missions, or summary, how many matches have you done, and it generates a campaign based on that. Otherwise, yeah, it's the same, but this small change was necessary for a first-time player. These are the things that help make sure that I'm going to get the player who comes in for the first time to at least be able to play a game loop, progress from there if I can get them to, right? So now let's look at this again through the eyes of a player who doesn't know what this game is, right? A player who's never seen this game before is going to look at this screen and be like, what is this? What is this? What is this? And here's where our art design and our sound design is going to save us, because we can have an intro cinematic. We could have cute characters. We could have an organized graphic design to our layout, to our menus, to all this stuff that right now is absolutely utilitarian and functional, but boring as hell, not entertaining. And of course, games are entertainment. When we collect a pearl, for example, we actually show a little bit of animation of like leaves parting and the pearl being revealed. The pearl itself is pretty and has a graphic design to it. This I knew I was going to need, and there's a bit of functionality necessary to get it there, so that was my excuse for putting it in. But I need that all over the place. I need that in the beginning of the game. We do need an intro cinematic. We need ways to make the campaign something that is a little more interesting than this. This wall of text is not going to do it. And I mentioned before, I would like to have voice. That would be great. Even though it's a Mad Lib, I think a voice reading this out would be awesome. Even if it's choppy and all that stuff, because it is a Mad Lib. But what if we have animation as well? What if there are character designs for example, the royal puppies, you see? This is the subject of the story that is the people we are helping or ignoring, and the royal puppies are part of this screen as we show you the story. This is the kind of stuff we could have with art that would make it more compelling to continue to play. It's hard to overstate how important it would be to have a more complete art and audio design, and how much that would add to the experience. But right now, of course, it's bare bones. You can play it, and you can actually get pretty far and see everything working, and that's cool. But we are clearly not done. We have more to do. Eventually, we will do more pearls, that's for sure. And we'll continue to do more art design. We'll do more audio design. And I have plans for that. I have people in mind to help me with that, particularly for color, because while I can do line art, I know I'm going to want some help with color in particular. The color ideas I have in mind have to do with a style that I don't really want to show this on stream, but I guess I could do this, right? Um, yeah, I could do that. Just checking, just checking, just checking. Yeah, this looks okay. I can show you this. Maxfield Parrish was a famous American painter from the 1920s, so almost 100 years ago. Well, 100 years ago. He was famous for this style, and it matches well with Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau was a broader style of art, but his style included the colors. Look at the good color. The lighting was typically what is known in film as the golden hour, which is right after dawn or just before dusk. The colors have to do with that yellow, orange, as well as the bright blues. These colors in particular are something I want to use in the style of art for our game, because we have fantasy and pleasant and not taking ourselves too seriously to contrast the battle and tactics. And you are a general sending these fantastic forces and creatures into battle. So this style from Maxfield Parrish is an inspiration. And then I want to tweak it from there, because while he is famous for a naturalistic style of the human figure, and it actually matches well with a lady who was famous at the time for her portraiture, her photography portraiture. The poses and composition of the figure in the frame matches what she did. Maxfield Parrish does this all the time. It's often centered, it's often profile, or otherwise in a simple but it's not dramatic posing. It's not like Marvel, but it does have interesting and relaxed poses. This style, and by the way, Maxfield Parrish did also do cartoons. This style is where I want to start from, and then I want to tweak it more toward cartoony. I think this would lend very well to a more cartoony style, less realism. That said, I'm able to do a realistic line art style. I have friends in mind to help me with the color, because I know it's the color that I'm going to struggle with more than anything else. So between my friends and I think we're going to get something good in terms of art. So we're going to try that out. In terms of sound, I have my favorite composer that I've already borrowed his music. He's in the credits of the game already, because the guy runs this website called Incompetech, Kevin MacLeod. He is really good at organizing his music by feeling, and that is perfect because music tells your players how to feel. That is exactly what music does. And that's why our songs in our game have this sense of fantasy, as well as not taking ourselves too seriously, even comical. That said, we go into battle and it's pretty heavy, kind of dramatic, just doesn't take itself too seriously, yes? So music, I think I got it. The rest of my sound, I think, needs voice. Like I said, I think voice is going to be one way to make this sound interesting, intimate, and make the fantastic parts of the game more grounded and more real when there's a real voice. Multiple voices. I have a couple of friends who can do multiple voices. And so, I'm going to talk to my friends. I'm going to get some friends. Friends are good. And in that way, I think it's going to be helpful for developing the audio style as well as the art style. Art will come first. But if you were like, yeah, just let me play the game, you can. You can totally play the game right now. Go to Discord, and there is a download link. You can get the single zip file. It's not very big. And go ahead, try it out. Be interested to hear any feedback at all. And I'd prefer it not just be, hey, this is great, because that doesn't help me at all. I also don't want it to be, this is terrible, because that doesn't help me at all. Be specific. Yeah, that'll help. Cool. So along with maybe coming up with extra pearl designs so that we can do more pearls later, that would be fantastic. All right. That's it for today. I imagine tomorrow, well, I guess I could go over some of the code that I did for the tutorial. It's not very hard. But also we're going to play more #blood because that's fun. Okay. That's it. Take care. Bye-bye. See ya.